Could you speak a little bit about the difference between good and great preaching?
The difference between good and great preaching?
Good and great preaching. RTS lecture I saw online.
Oh, you mean you'd like me to say what you heard me say before?
Well, a little bit, yeah. Now that I'm in person.
Yeah, no. I mean, I hope this is what you remember. I don't know. Anyway. This is an oversimplification. Honestly, it's an oversimplification. But to me, the difference between a bad sermon and a good sermon is largely speaking got to do with you, the speaker. Have you done your job? Have you studied the passage? A minute ago I tried to say, have you mastered the material so you know the material well enough that if I don't know my material, when I get up there, I won't have the freedom, a kind of a spiritual, emotional freedom to think about the wonderful truth. I'll be thinking about what's coming next. And I don't want to be having to say, okay, that was point 2. Now what's point 3 again? What's point 3A? What's point 3B? I want the emotional freedom. So I need to know my material. I need to have done all the study. I need all that stuff. So the difference between a bad sermon and a good sermon, generally speaking, is got to do with you. The difference between a good sermon and a great sermon is almost completely the Holy Spirit. That's probably what you heard me say. I have often I've often preached sermons that were just okay, but seemed to have changed a heck of a lot of lives because God just decided to use it that way. And I've preached other sermons that were actually fairly good, pretty tight, I liked it, and didn't have the same impact. And see, so you can get into the realm of good, okay sermon, that's up to you. This is an oversimplification. Obviously God helps you in this study too, but I'm trying to say, to get yourself up to the good or okay sermon, it's got mainly to do with you, but that which gets you into the realm where, revival breaks out, that's just the Holy Spirit. I don't, one last thing is, there was an older man who heard both Daniel Rowland and George Whitefield preach. Daniel Rowland was a Welsh preacher. George Whitefield, of course, is the famous Anglican preacher. And they both preached a lot in the 1730s, 40s, 50s. Many years later, there was a guy who was interviewed who had heard both of them preach. And he was asked which preacher was the better preacher. And he said that both of them were equally, their sermons were equally powerful. But with Daniel Rowland, you always got a good sermon. Whereas with George Whitefield, you didn't always get a good sermon. But sermons were always equally powerful. And that makes no sense unless you understand what I just said. That Whitefield always, for whatever reason, whether Whitefield's sermons were well written or not, God always seemed to work through them. And so anyway, so the difference in bad and good is mainly you. The difference in good and great is mainly God's working and deciding to work sovereignly at the moment.